Welcome to the Oblate Lourdes safeguarding training. This is training for all of the volunteers and staff who are working with children and vulnerable adults on the Lourdes pilgrimage. My name is Suzanne Phelan. I work for the Oblates as their designated liaison person and safeguarding advisor. My job as designated liaison person is to hear any complaints or concerns that any of you may have in relation to children or vulnerable adults. I'm also there to support you and listen to you about those concerns and to pass them on where necessary to the statutory authorities. The Oblates have made a long-term commitment to protecting children and vulnerable adults. This commitment has been supported by having correct policies and appointing safeguarding people throughout the organisation. In this video, we are talking about the work that we do with our guests who are travelling to Lourdes with us in September. Who are our guests? They are the assisted pilgrims who require a special level of care and comfort and accompany the other pilgrims. However, in this instance, they usually stay in the Écaille Notre Dame. These pilgrims may be children or vulnerable adults. You may be asking yourself, who or what is a vulnerable adult? A vulnerable adult is anyone aged 18 or over who cannot take care of themselves. Vulnerable adults may not be able to protect themselves against significant harm or unfair treatment. This may be because they have a mental health problem, they have a disability, it may be visual or a hearing problem, or they may be simply old and frail or ill. Because of this, these adults may receive a care service in their own home, in their community, or they may live in a residential centre, a nursing home, or other similar settings. Why do we need to protect vulnerable adults? We need to protect them because vulnerable adults have the right to have their civil and human rights upheld and to live a life free from abuse. Everyone should treat vulnerable adults with respect and dignity. They should be able to choose how to live their lives independently and how to receive support in doing this. Vulnerable adults should also get the opportunity to take part in their local community as active citizens. They should also be able to fulfil their personal hopes and ambitions and do as much as they can in all aspects of their daily lives. This includes getting support services and having somebody to speak for them and having their voices heard in decisions made about them. Vulnerable adults that are victims of abuse need to be confident that the law will protect them and they know that their rights will be upheld, and that is what we're trying to do in providing this training. When a vulnerable adult needs to be protected, it may be from abuse. Abuse is the violation of a person's human and civil rights by any other person, and it can take many forms. The different forms it can take, one of them is physical abuse, and this can include things like having been slapped or hit, possibly kicked, or even having been given medicine that may harm them. They may have been restrained or tied down in some ways, or they may have been disciplined in an inappropriate way. The kind of things that you may see when you're working with them would be somebody who might be bruised, they might have a fracture, they may have marks, or they simply may be very reluctant to be touched, and you may see that as unusual. There are often quite reasonable explanations for some of these signs, but the signs are an indicator that we possibly should be concerned, and you may need to check it out with the person or with one of the team leaders or the designated person. Another type of abuse that people may suffer from is psychological abuse. This can be emotional abuse, it can be verbal abuse, it can be people who are threatened or humiliated or even bullied in their home. The signs that you may observe around this could be someone who's very withdrawn, somebody who's so eager to please you, someone who may have some kind of compulsive behaviour, or they may simply not be able to do the things that you would expect them to be able to do. or they may demonstrate that they're not able to concentrate or focus on something. Another form of abuse that a vulnerable adult may experience will include things like a person stealing from them, cheating them out of something, using the vulnerable adult in some way for financial gain, putting pressure on someone to maybe transfer property, put something into a will, misusing or stealing their property. And a sign that you may, but it might be quite difficult on the pilgrimage to notice, would be somebody who was having difficulty with their finances. But you may note that somebody is very concerned about their money or very worried in some way about their finances, or they may indicate to you that they're not able to pay their bills or something like that. Occasionally, when an older person or a vulnerable person is being looked after, they may experience something like neglect or what we call acts of omission. And this is where an older person may not get something that they need. It may be that they have things that are withdrawn from them, or they're not given the help that they require, and this causes them to suffer. The signs that you might see that would indicate would be that they were in pain or discomfort. Someone may indicate that they often are hungry or thirsty when they're at home, or there may be some changes in their behaviour that would indicate this to you. Another very sad form of abuse that a vulnerable adult may be experiencing is that of sexual abuse. And this is where a vulnerable adult is forced to do things of a sexual nature that they either don't want to do or they possibly don't understand about. Another type of abuse that older people or vulnerable adults can experience is discriminatory abuse. And this may be because someone is discriminated because of their possible ethnic origin, their religion, their age, their gender, or even their disability, that they're now not able to do things for themselves, and as a result they're discriminated. You may be thinking, well, all of the people that come on the pilgrimage are well looked after, I have no concerns about them, and in all instances you're possibly correct. However, there may be times when you may become aware of some abuse in the life of one of our vulnerable adults. You may see or hear something. A vulnerable adult may tell you about some abuse that they've been experiencing. Someone, a colleague, a friend, someone else on the pilgrimage may tell you something that causes you to be concerned. You may notice an injury or some kind of a mark on one of the adults that are travelling with us. You may notice a victim or an abuser behaving in a way that alerts you that there's something going on. I would have to ask you that we all need to see the signs and be aware of them, and we need to break the silence. We need to tell someone what we think is happening. It doesn't matter if you are not sure. If you think something is wrong, let us know. If you are concerned about a vulnerable adult and you're wondering what you should do, if somebody has told you something or you've noticed something, and nothing is too small for us to hear about it, the first thing I would ask you to do is to let one of the designated liaison persons know. There are 3 of us, and I'll tell you who they are later on in the presentation. They will get more information and refer to any of the relevant agencies where needed. This will mean clarifying or getting more information about the allegation, or consulting with the vulnerable adult to hear what their wishes are, etc. Some of our guests and some of our OYS volunteers are children. The definition of a child in Ireland is in fact anyone under the age of 18 who is neither married or has never been married. The OYS members who are under 18 are not permitted to provide intimate care for the sick pilgrims. They are required to wear different coloured badges to ensure they are easily distinguishable from the other volunteers, and they do not find themselves in a situation where they are asked to provide intimate care for any of our guests. The categories of child abuse are not dissimilar to those involved in vulnerable adult abuse. There are 4 main categories. They're not mutually exclusive. So if a child or a young person is experiencing one, they may be experiencing more. The categories are physical abuse, sexual abuse, neglect, and emotional abuse. If you have a concern about a child, either a pilgrim or an OIS volunteer, you may have that concern because of what somebody has told you. You may have observed it, or someone else may have told you. Check out your concern with the person themselves or with the leader in charge of the group, and make a report to the designated liaison person. It is not your role to investigate, and it's very important that if you have a concern that you act immediately and talk to a designated liaison person. If they are satisfied that there are reasonable grounds for concern, they are responsible for making a report as quickly as possible to TUSLA. If you're not satisfied with their response, and if you think that you need to refer it on to TUSLA yourself, you are encouraged to do so under the legislation. We have a code of behaviour for working with children, and this is to support everybody in the area of working. We are asked to treat all children in a manner that respects their dignity and rights. We must provide a good example of conduct in the way we behave at all times. We need to respect each child's boundaries. We need to be visible to each other while we're working with children. Ideally, people should be working with children on a 2 adults to 1 child basis. All of our children who are guests would usually be accompanied by a parent, and we would want the parents to be with them when we're providing any care or intervention to the children. If that's not possible, we try to operate an open door policy. We need you to challenge and report any behaviour that you are concerned about. If you think it's inappropriate, possibly abusive, let us know. There is nothing that can be said that you are wrong in making a report, but we would encourage you to let us know any concerns that you may have. We want to help you to help us maintain a culture where children can talk freely about their contacts with staff and volunteers. Who do you report to if you suspect abuse? The 3 people are Miriam MacDonald, the Director of Nursing, Jerry Bennett, who's the Chief Brancardier, and myself, Suzanne Phelan, who is the designated liaison person for the Oblates. Frequently, we have questions asked when we're working with children. People wonder what happens if they report something that turns out not to be true. If you report something reasonably and in good faith, you are protected under the Protection of Persons Reporting Child Abuse 1988. And in any case, making a report to the designated person is not gossiping or telling tales. It's acting in the best interests of everybody. Do you have to ensure that you're never alone with a child? Within reason, we would want you to ensure that as much as possible that you aren't alone with a child, but we do expect that on occasion incidents will occur and that can't be helped. But we would ask you to keep a door open or to stand somewhere where you will be visible by others. Is it okay to hug a child or a young person? If the hug is initiated by the child or the young person, or is offered in a response to a need, then yes, it's done in an open and non-threatening way, then please be as warm as possible with the people we work with. There are a couple of other key things that we want to get across in relation to looking after our guests. One of them is confidentiality. Confidentiality is about maintaining and managing sensitive information that arises in a trusting relationship, and doing it in a manner that is respectful, professional and purposeful. Volunteering is based upon trusting relationships, and it is not uncommon for children or vulnerable adults to want to share personal information with volunteers. Any information that shows that a person is at risk must be shared with the designated liaison persons. The other thing that we think is very important is in the area of photographs and social media. Nowadays, everyone with a phone virtually has a camera, and photographs of guests should only be placed on social media with their consent and with the consent of their parents if they're under 18. Just because you have a photograph doesn't entitle you to post it on Facebook, Twitter, Snapchat or any other platforms. Confidentiality of our guests is paramount on the Oblate pilgrimage, and under no circumstances must photographs be taken on the ward. You must tell us if you think something is not right. We will always want to hear about it. My telephone number is 085 114 6391, or my email is as below. All reports and concerns of any kind that you have, we would encourage you to bring it to any of the designated liaison persons. As I said before, they're always available while on the pilgrimage, and we will be available after you return. Otherwise, you can also report concerns to TUSLA, the Gardaí or the HSE as appropriate. For the remainder of my presentation, I would like to invite you to watch the HSE video. This was made a number of years ago, but demonstrates where vulnerable adults can be at risk in our community and in care homes, and would identify to you the kind of situations that may arise in your work. The name of the film is Open Your Eyes to Elder Abuse in the Community. I would like to thank you very much for taking the time to watch the video and for coming with us to Lourdes. The pilgrimage couldn't take place without all of your participation, and we very much appreciate it. Thank you.